In this video, we're going to take a look at how to break the grid responsively. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I have this Did You Know section right here on the right. The problem is we go to a mobile design, this has to go to a one column. So I'm going to do is I'm going to move this column so as it breaks and then breaks and then breaks, it drops down to normal text in a tablet and a mobile framework. We head back to the desktop, it breaks out of the grid and pushes up into this picture. And we're starting right now. Alrighty, so what I have here is I've got a design with this picture in the background. Now I built this in a previous video, so if you want to see how I built this hello world that sits at the bottom of this picture, I'll put a link in the description below. The template I have down here is the Bootstrap 5 template, and what I've done is I've added a custom CSS right here, and in the custom CSS I focused on this masthead and the container. And in the container, I have a color overlay with this kind of gradient on this black to really pop out hello world. What I want to do next in this project to get this thing really moving is I want to add some text down below. We're going to use the power of Bootstrap 5 since we have the Bootstrap 5 template sitting right here in our design. And we're going to build a 2-column grid, and then we'll go into our CSS and break that grid. So if we head down below, we're not going to touch the masthead. So I'm going to head down below. And again, you can follow along. I've also included a download to the files on this project if you want to follow along at home. So after this masthead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a div class container. The container is the most powerful tool in Bootstrap's arsenal. So if I type the word test, what'll happen is it'll sit right here along the same line and it'll move and break based upon specified breakpoints built into Bootstrap. That is just freaking amazing, and this is also why I love Bootstrap. It just makes things to code that much faster. After the div class container, what I am going to do is say div class, and then add a row, and then position relative. Relative is built into Bootstrap. Pretty cool. So I'm going to add a row. And what I did before for this design is that the word test sits a little too close to the edge of this little picture image. So I'm going to do is I'm going to add a margin Y. Margin Y equals the top and bottom essentially. And I'm going to say 4. That's just going to push the, whoa, where'd it go? Hello. Where'd my, oh, I took out the word test. That's why it disappeared. I thought it just fell off the face of the earth. Let's bring test back. There we go. I had a moment of panic. I was like, where did the word test go? Anyways, let's continue on. I have left myself sometimes. All right, I'm going to say div class, and I'm going to write 2 things. I'm going to first say call 12. Call 12 is essentially a 1-column design because it is mobile first. It is defaulted to the 12/12 or 1 column. I'm then going to add, after the call 12, call LG 7. I'm going to create a 7-column width on this side and a 5-column width on the next side. After that, I'm going to drop in some lorem ipsum. So I'll say lorem, and there we go. I might add it a little bit longer, so I might just duplicate this next sentence just for the fun of it. There we go. And we'll add one more lorem ipsum as well. So, you know what I should do? Let's do this right. Let's add a paragraph tag, drop it in, and then we'll drop another paragraph tag. Let's say lorem 100. A little longer paragraph. Awesome. Now I have lorem ipsum. Shout out to I do not know, but someone recommended to install the lorem ipsum plugin, and that has changed my life. So welcome and thank you to whoever did that. Old habits die hard, and I finally broke the habit of going to lipsum.com, and there it is. So now that I have this 7-column width, what I want to do is I want to add a 5-column width to the right-hand side. If we go outside this div, and we say div class, and I'm going to say call 12, again, so it breaks properly. I'm going to say call LG 5, and we'll also say position relative right here. And then just making sure it sits on the right-hand side. There it is, the word test. And again, we're going to add the lorem ipsum, but I'm going to add an H2. I'm going to say, did you know? Just to pretend this is a breakout amount of space on the right-hand side. And then we'll add a paragraph and say lorem 50. And now we have a bit of text on the right-hand side. And I'll add a couple more paragraphs to this because this is also going to be a problem as we'll see in the future. So if we add another paragraph and we'll say lorem 125, we're going to get a longer paragraph and we'll do one more paragraph just because I don't love typing lorem enough in these notes. Oh, I said lorem ipsum, lorem 150. Come on, you didn't catch. Lorem 150, there we go. What I want to do is I wanted to show you that we have to fix this problem at the bottom because if you have more text down below, so if we were to go outside these divs and add one more paragraph, I want to show you what happens. I'm going to add a paragraph just by itself and say lorem 150 here. What's going to happen is this will just put the text right here. We want to make sure that we move this appropriately. So when we move it up, we move the spacing up as well. So there's not a large gap. That's why I want to put all of this text in here to showcase how this entirety of this column moves. We have it set up to go right here, but now what I want to do is I want to add some CSS. In order to add the right CSS, I have to add a new class name. So what I want to do is come up to the top, and I probably should have done this before, but well, there you go. What I'm going to do is under the div class 12 and the call LG5, I'm going to say div class, and I call this one go up, just because that's what it does. It just pushes the text up. Now I do have to copy and paste this, so hang on while I go through and grab these bits of information. We'll make it clean, drop it in, and what should happen is it looks exactly the same. We're going to leverage the power of the class go up to push this up. And the reason why I didn't put the class go up inside this parent is because I had to make sure I use the position relative, and the child class go up is going to be position absolute. So in the custom CSS, I've already got some pieces here. I have the color overlay, I have the masthead H1 and the masthead container. We're not going to touch any of these. And if you want to see how this was built, I've got a previous video to this design, which you can watch and see how I designed Hello World at the top along with the picture and cover. So if I come down below past the color overlay, what I want to do is I want to write a new class called, of course, go up. So I'll say go up. And what I'm going to do is first say position and absolute. Now this shouldn't move because again, it's based upon the relative absolute positioning and it's already in the top left position. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say top and say -6 rem. Now check it out. Now we have movement and magic. The problem is that we can't read this type. So we have to add a background color. Let's add background color, and we'll just use white to mimic the design. It's looking good, but this little kind of white up rectangular design doesn't fit with the design perfectly. So I'm going to add a border radius. Border radius, I'm going to say is 1 rem. And to keep it clean and consistent, I'm going to say padding is 1 rem as well. So the curve and the padding equates to the same number. Now this is looking much better. However, what I want to do is I have to, whoa, see, that's why I wanted to drop this text in down below. Because it's an absolute positioning, it essentially picks it up off the page and then just lets it move so this area doesn't fit to the right direction. So what I have to do is I have to give it a margin bottom for it to stay in the right position, relatively speaking, with the absolute. So I'm going to say margin bottom, and I'm going to say -5.75 rem. And we have a problem. I meant to, and in my description, I mentioned relative positioning, but I didn't do it properly. I just kind of jumped right to the absolute. So that was my bad. It has to be position relative. There we go. The reason why, if we look down here, is that if we look at the margin bottom, and we take it out, if we don't have the margin bottom, that extra space shows up because we moved it top by -6 rem. So thereby that space is just having an extra amount of emptiness because it shifted equidistantly up. That's why I added the margin bottom, and now it just moves it almost magically to the right position down below. Again, I could duplicate 6 rem and 6 rem here. I just felt there was almost too much empty space with the 6 and 6, so I dropped it to a -5.75. Again, this is just aesthetics, and it's up to you how you want to place the negative margin. I also want to add a little gradient. I want to add a shadow to this design just to make it pop, because this kind of white roundedness, if you like that design, keep it. But to me, I want it to pop off the screen. So I'm going to add a box shadow, and we'll add a 0px, 0px, 6px, and an RGBA. And I'll add not the 0.5, but it helped type for me. I'll add the 0.3. And what it does, it just gives this really nice soft shadow around the box. It's looking great, except we haven't focused on the mobile framework. If we were to go back, and we'll go back to our inspect area, and let's just drop this down. There we go. Again, this looks really good when it comes to the desktop version, but if we flip to the mobile version, whoa, now look what happens. Because we haven't accounted to take that space away, it moves it up relatively and of course crashes into our previous paragraph. Keep in mind that it moved up into this empty space at the top. However, in the mobile design, it just totally crashes. And if we look at it down below, it's not too bad here, but we haven't fixed this problem here. For mobile design, instead of adding more to the equation, I want to add less. And that's the power of inherent and / initial. So what I'm going to do is, if we come back, let me move this up. We can still sit in the mobile framework. What I've already got is a media query that already moved things based upon the design of Bootstrap 5. Bootstrap 5 already provides you with the media queries based upon the numerical values that they give. So I said media max width at 991. Anything underneath this, set the min height of the masthead to 30. And what it does, if you can look at it again here, it'll move the top of the design from 60 down to 30. Do this, it cuts it down in half. So what I want to do in this media query is I want to then fix this area. This is not the right size. That's better. I want to fix this problem once and for all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type after this masthead, I'm going to say go up. And just so we can see and make sure it works, let's add a background color. This is kind of my first test to make sure. And I have found that this does hiccup every so often on this live server when I save it and then refresh in this mobile environment. So let me try something else. Make sure we can see the purple. I'm just going to manually move it. There it is. I like adding colors only because I want to make sure that this is working. If this doesn't work and then I type a lot of code, then I'm here scratching my head trying to figure out what's going on. So by just adding a quick purple color, I know that this code is working properly and it's breaking the right way as well. When it goes out, we can see the did you know shows up. And when it goes back in, the purple / responsive design shows up as well. So what we have to do is one, get rid of our purple color. We didn't have that any longer. I'm going to say position, and I'm going to say inherit. Inherit's a really awesome tool because it takes it back to its parent. So if I say inherit, now it goes away because the position is essentially null in its parent position. The top, I want to say, is inherit. You have both inherit and initial. To me, if I say inherit, check it out. The top just goes away and it pushes it down automatically. So easy to write this. It's almost like you're resetting the design. After the top, I'm going to move this up just a little bit right here. I'll say background color. This is minimal, but again, if you were to have a background color in this design, so again, if I were to have a body color, we'll just add a body color right here for example purposes. We say body, and then background color, we'll use our famous purple again. This is what I mean. The purple should match to this design right here. I don't want the white to be on white because this might trip me up down the road. So again, let me take out the body and we'll go into this one and we'll just say background color is going to be inherent. All CSS all have inherent built into their code. Pretty cool. Border radius, you got it. We're just going to go through all of these and say inherent to take out the border radius. You can see where this is going. Padding, we're going to ditch. Now the padding is something different. Everything else had inherent, but I found when I typed it, the inherent goes to its parent, which if we then look at the code, the padding, let's go back up here, goes up to the padding right here. I essentially do not want a double padding in this design. Let's keep it for a second, and then I'm going to say note to change inherent to initial. Just make a note of this, and I'll show you why. After the padding, we'll say margin bottom. We're going to get rid of it. So we'll say inherent. And again, if we scroll down the page, if we come down, it's looking much better down below. And of course, the last take off our box shadow. So we'll say inherit. And just like that, it goes away. Now again, notice how this double pads because we took the parent of the padding. In this case, I'm going to say initial, which is essentially nothing. And now it drops it down and looks so much cleaner in this design. It's like it never ever existed. There is some extra space right here because that's with the container and not with the text itself. If I were to put this text back in the container, it would line up. But there's nothing with this text below, so we can ignore this additional margin in this design.